If your vocals are sounding thin, muddy, or just refuse to cut through the mix, today I've got 3 vocal mixing cheat codes to help you clean up your vocal mixes and get them sitting right inside your tracks. Let me start, as always, here by playing you the vocal inside the finished mix, and then I'll solo it up. You can hear our finished vocal sound, and I'll also A-B our plugin so you can hear our starting point and you can hear where we end up with this vocal. So here it is inside our finished mix.
I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon. I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon. I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon. I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon.
You can hear our vocal goes from sounding muddy, kind of nasally, and kind of dull to being bright, to being upfront. It sits on top of this track. It sits exactly where we want it. It's not inconsistent. It's not moving around. It stays powerful, and it stays upfront in this mix. I'm going to leave the effects off here as we kind of walk through. Let me take off these 2 plugins on the bus, and we're going to move over and look at just the individual vocal channel to start. The first vocal mixing cheat code I have for you here is to not overdo it with the EQ on your vocals. I have 2 EQs running here on the vocal, and they're pretty much doing the same kind of thing. The main EQ that I have first in the chain here is a high pass and a top end boost. We're going to look at just the high pass here. When I say not over EQing your vocals, I mean not going in and scooping out a whole bunch of low mids and removing all of this area that's giving you the weight and it's giving you the low end power on your vocal. A lot of people these days, a lot of home studio engineers mistake this mid-range area for mud when it's actually the bottom end weight on your vocal. So the only thing I'm doing here on this vocal is rolling in a high pass filter to actually get rid of the low end area that we don't need on this vocal. This 2, 3, 4, 500 area, I don't want to cut that out. I don't want to scoop out our vocal, and I don't want it to get all hollow and weak and thin sounding. So the only cut we're doing here on our vocal is a high pass filter. Take a listen without this, and then I'll kick it in. Pay attention to how it cleans up the bottom end, but it doesn't give us a thin sounding vocal. So without the high pass, and then with it. We're up at 224 hertz, 12 dB per octave slope. Take a listen.
I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon. I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon.
So you can hear it. We get rid of that low end buildup down in the sub area and up around 100 hertz, but we don't thin out our vocal. All we're doing is getting rid of buildup. We're getting rid of anything in the sub area that we don't need, whether it's air conditioning sound, room ambience, plosives, anything like that. We're rolling off with the high pass filter, and I roll it up a little bit into the low mids here to clean up any kind of mud that's there. But you can see we're not pulling out maybe even, 3 dB there around 200 hertz. We want to leave that area in because that's where our weight and that's where our power is sitting on our vocal here. So cheat code number 1 for vocal mixing is to not over EQ your vocals and not scoop out a bunch of the low mid area so you don't end up with a thin sounding vocal. Now, before we get to the other EQ move here, we're going to jump ahead to cheat code number 2. And for me, this is probably the most important one. It makes the biggest difference on my vocal mixes. It's compressing the right amount. A lot of home studio engineers, especially when they're starting out, are very afraid of compressing their vocal past sometimes it feels like the magic number that's preached on YouTube is like, you don't want to go over like 3 dB of compression on your vocals. I'm going to hit play here. Watch the amount of reduction we're doing on this vocal. And I'll start without the compressor in, and then I'll kick it in. Pay attention to the difference we get tone and volume-wise, so dynamics-wise, and pay attention to how much reduction we're doing to get this effect.
I'll be over soon. Under Milton moon. I'll be over soon. Under soon.
We're doing like 7 to 10 dB reduction here on our vocal. The key here is to get the vocal sitting in one spot with our compression, so controlling the dynamics on it, but I'm also using it to control the frequency response on our vocal. Using a compressor like this, a FET style compressor, an 1176 style compressor, allows me to push this hard into the compressor and get that 7 to 10 dB reduction that's going to control our dynamics, but pushing this hard also lets me shape the tone, so I get more character and I get more energy and push out of our vocal. So listen one more time here, without and then with. Pay attention to the dynamic shift, so it holds our vocal in one place, but also pay attention to how the tone shifts on our vocal. We get more energy, we get more character. It really feels like our vocal is pushing harder by itself.
I'll be over soon. Under a melting moon, I'll be over soon. Under a melting moon.
Take a listen to this inside the track. So I'm going to dump our vocal back inside the finished mix here. This is just this first EQ, the high pass, and just this compressor. Take a listen to the difference this compression makes as we turn it on and off on our vocal.
I'll be over soon. Under a melting moon. I'll be over soon.
It can be scary to do that amount of reduction on your vocal, especially your lead vocal, right? It's one of the most important things in your mix. And to hit it with 7 to 10 dB reduction can be super scary, especially if you're new to mixing. But this amount of compression, coupled with the character we get from this compressor, is what lets us park the vocal in one spot in the mix. If you don't get your vocal evened out, if you don't get it evened out dynamically and frequency-wise, no matter where you put this fader, you're still going to have ups and downs frequency-wise and volume-wise on your vocal. So this is why cheat code number 2, compressing your vocal the right amount inside the track, is so crucial to getting a pro vocal mix from your home studio. Now we're going to go back here, again, not over EQing our vocal. The only other EQ move I'm doing on this first EQ is just adding a little bit of brightness. So 9 dB at 8K, we're going to add some air, some top end. We're going to open up this vocal so it's going to cut through inside the track here. So take a listen without, and then I'll kick this boost in.
I'll be over soon.
So we're waking up our vocal mix here and making sure it cuts through in the mix, but the side effect of boosting top end to get your vocal airy, to make sure it cuts through the mix, is that you're going to emphasize or over-exaggerate the sibilance range on the vocal. And that's where cheat code number 3 comes in. We're going to do a few things here to attack the harshness and the sibilance range on our vocal to make sure it doesn't chop anybody's head off in the top end, in the high mids here. The first thing we're going to do is use a de-esser. And I actually really love using a multi-band compressor as a de-esser. There's the de-esser plugin here inside of Studio One, and I have the SSL one as well. But these days I still end up reaching for just the multi-band compressor inside of Studio One. So we're only using the top end here, looking at 3K and above, 20-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, fastest release. So it's going to act like a limiter on the top end, but super fast attack and super fast release. Make sure we get in, we grab any problems in the sibilance range, and then we let go to leave the rest of the top end of our vocal unaffected. So take a listen here without this in, and then I'll kick it in. You can hear how it controls the top end on our vocal.
I'll be over soon.
really controlling and really hammering down on that sibilance range, so none of the S's, the T's, or anything like that jump out and kind of rip your head off, right? Because we're doing a big boost here on our first EQ. 9 dB is nothing small here, so we got to make sure that any of those S's, T's, anything up in the sibilance range that's going to be exaggerated by that is going to sound natural inside the track. That's the idea with the de-esser here. We want to pull that sibilance range back so it feels natural, like you're just standing in front of someone talking. How would the S sound there? Not in a really exaggerated situation like this. So keep that in mind as you're dialing in your de-esser. Don't overdo it, but make sure you rein that sibilance range in so S's and T's sound natural inside the mix. The couple extra things I have on the end of the chain here are just another high pass filter to make sure the bottom end doesn't get too crazy. And then there's a limiter, just grabbing any kind of peaks that slip through the compressor or the multi-bend. But continuing on with step 3 here, making sure our vocal isn't harsh and making sure it's not going to take anybody's head off with any edginess or pokiness or anything like that. There's a couple other things I like to do. I've really been happy using Soothe lately, but the kind of old way I used to do things does still slip back into things. But the first thing I'm putting in here is Soothe, and I just have the sharpness all the way up here, so it's pretty much working like automatic notch filters for me. It saves me from going in more with a normal EQ and notching out a whole bunch of frequencies. Soothe kind of does it for me, but if you don't have Soothe, if you don't want to go out and grab this, because I know it can be kind of a pricey plugin, especially if you're starting out, you can do it the second way we're going to look at here as well. But first, at the end of the chain here on my vocal bus is always Soothe these days, and I just dial up the depth here on this frequency range, so 2K up to about 20K. I dialed up the depth till it's just pulling any kind of harsh or pokey frequencies down by about 12 dB. So take a listen without it, and then I'll kick it in.
I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon. Under melting moon.
Really smooths out our vocal mix here and make sure there's no frequencies that are going to jump out and harm our listeners' ears and kind of take away from the feel, the character, and the vibe of this performance. That's one of the key things about having the sharpness all the way up here. It doesn't intrude on or kind of go against all of the processing we've done so far. The wider these notches become, the more top end we end up pulling out, and we kind of just do away with the pretty top end boost we did at the beginning of the chain here. So make sure you keep that sharpness up. And then usually after that, sometimes there's always one or maybe two frequencies that slip past Soothe. So I do pull in an EQ to do this kind of harshness removal manually. So if you don't have something like Soothe that's going to do this automatically for you, you can just do this with an EQ. So I have a notch filter at 3.71K, and I'm pulling this down by about 12 dB. So take a listen without and then with this notch in.
I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon.
It's just that last little bit of polish and that last little bit of smoothing on our vocal to make sure it sits exactly where we want it inside the track. So let me A/B all of our plugins on our vocal, and we'll review our cheat codes one more time. But here's our after and then our before on our vocal mix.
I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon. Under melting moon. I'll be over soon.
3 vocal mixing cheat codes to make sure your vocals aren't harsh and to make sure they sit exactly where you want them inside the track. The first one is to not over EQ your vocals. So don't go in and start scooping out a whole bunch of low mid energy that's going to make your vocals sound thin inside the track. Keep that energy in so your vocal has some weight and power as you bring it up inside the mix here. Cheat code number 2 is making sure you're not afraid of compression. We're doing about 7 to 10 dB reduction here on the vocal, and it makes sure our vocal is super even and super consistent, both volume-wise and frequency-wise. So no matter where we park that fader, it's going to stay exactly where we want it inside the mix here. And cheat code number 3 is controlling the harshness and controlling the sibilance range on our vocal so it never rips our listener's head off. So using a de-esser to attack everything above 3K, control the sibilance range, and then using Soothe and a EQ notch to grab any harsh or pokey or edgy frequencies that are left on our vocal mix. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and you really want to start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free resource, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.